What's up, my wizards? It's Dev, SBMTG, we like it a magic, and today, would you believe it, we have more War of the Spark spoilers. I know you didn't expect it, but we actually do. Totally expected it. We have 9 cards to talk about today, not too many, but for the first time in a while, it feels like there's not like a glut of limited stuff I have to get through before I get to the really impactful cards. Pretty much everything today is at least in the conversation for playability, so let's go. Now, if there is a worst card today, it's probably Sarkhan's Catharsis, but this is a strict upgrade on Lava Axe. It's just 5 mana, and it's a Lava Axe text box, but instead of sorcery, it's an instant, which changes everything. I'm not sure that this really sees play. I don't think this is enough to make, like, Is It Counterburn a real actual deck, but it seems really cool, if nothing else. And I want to at least try it out because instant speed makes all the difference. Being able to actually just hit your opponent at the end of their turn and then immediately untap after your Lava Axe is huge. So I want to try it out, but again, I'm still not sure that instant speed makes Lava Axe worth it. We'll see though. Now, it was really difficult to pick which card I want to talk about next because, like, they all look pretty good, but I guess we'll go with Finale of Glory here. This is the white Finale. It is 2 white and an X for a sorcery. Create X 2/2 white soldier creature tokens with vigilance, and if X is 10 or more, you also create X 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance. I'll note the word also on this, so you get the angels and the soldiers. So that's pretty cool, if you can get to X equals 10 or more. At which point, like, there's probably just better spells, you know? Like, somebody on Twitter earlier was like, can't you just use Expansion, Explosion, or like Banefire or something? It's like, yeah, you could do that. Although I will say that the finales aren't necessarily as, you know, susceptible to things like Lazotep plating, and that might make a big difference, but then again, I'm not sure. Like, why wouldn't you just go for the jugular and try to finish them rather than just putting a bunch of tokens into play? So, I'm not sure, although this is one of the finales that I think is actually kind of okay at lower mana costs. Like X equals 3, you know, 5 total mana to cast this card. You get 3 2/2 Vigilance guys, and that's actually not super bad, although there's probably better things you could be doing at sorcery speed. You know, 6 mana gets you 4 guys, not bad either, you know. 3 mana gets you 1, which is terrible. 4 mana gets you 2, which is okay, but not necessarily where you want to be. You know, the card scales okay, but I want to do a little bit better than okay. I just am not sure, even though this could be a mass token creator, ripping it off the top really, really late seems great. You know, even if you can't get to X equals 10. Ripping it to where you can make X equal 6 seems really, really good. So, I don't know, maybe, but I struggle to see the kind of deck that wants it. Even like the mono-white decks, or the green-white tokens decks even. I don't really think that they have the slots for a card like this, but I'd love to be proven wrong. As a matter of fact, let's just talk about all the finales in a row here, because, again, it's really difficult to figure out, like, the order I want to put these cards in today, because they're all, again, at least, like, worth talking about. Like, Finale of Eternity. This is 2 black and an X for a sorcery. Destroy up to 3 target creatures with toughness X or less. If X is 10 or more, return all creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's really, really good flavor text. But aside from that, I actually think this card is quite good, but it's got to be better than Cry of the Carnarium, is the big problem with it. And Cry exiles period. I was going to say, it exiles a bunch of stuff you want to exile, just exiles, period. That's very good. That said, of course, the later on in the game you get, the better it is than Cry of the Carnarium. If you can make X equal 4, costs a total of 6 mana for your sweeper at that point, but you're killing everything 4 toughness or less, well, not everything, but 3 creatures 4 toughness or less, and that can be very good, obviously. So, again, this is a great late game top deck, like a lot of these finales are, but I think this is just good enough to maybe see 1 or 2 of play, especially in a deck like Mono Black Control, or obviously Chromatic Black. Done a lot of thinking about that. I know this is going to sound crazy. I'm not actually sure that deck wants Cabal Stronghold because it's got a bunch of other lands it wants to play, but it probably does. End of the day, it probably still wants to play Cabal Stronghold so it can, like, cast Mastermind's Acquisition and whatever it tutored up. That's an important play for the deck. And now, this is just another X spell that it has to cast with Cabal Stronghold, so very, very late in the game, you can probably get to X equals 10 relatively easily in Mono Black. So I like it for that deck, obviously, and if it goes in nothing else, it'll probably go there. But I do want to do a little bit more, messing around, testing with this card, because I got eyes on it. Again, I think there are probably some better options in terms of black sweepers. Cry the Carnarium, again, is probably still going to be the weapon of choice for a lot of decks. But I do think this has just enough play and especially versatility on it. The card is very flexible. But I think it's probably going to be worth a 1 or 2 of in a lot of decks. And then, finally, the green finale. It's hard to say finally finale, but anyway. Finale of Devastation could have easily been the last card I talked about today, because this card looks absolutely nuts. But this is 2 green and X. For a sorcery, search your library and or graveyard for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. If X is 10 or more, creatures you control get +X and gain haste until end of turn. Cheese and crust. This is just like probably the best finale. Like off the top of my head. The red one might actually end up doing more work, but this is just like a Green Sun Zenith, kind of, you know, more or less. This is a reworked Green Sun Zenith that Modern gets to play too, and it's just like, that's good. So yeah, this will probably see play in Modern, I'm calling that. But even in Standard, this is just crazy, you know? Like, I've seen people try to make the argument, like, oh, it's just you're paying 2 more for a creature, and that's bad. What are you talking about? Like, going to tutor up any creature that you want is really, really good, almost no matter what the situation, but this works well in the toolbox strategies that Green is already kind of trying to make, but can't quite get there, you know? These Vanifar decks want a toolbox strategy, and this might go in Vanifar to tutor up your Vanifar, if nothing else. But obviously, just like all the other finales, you get this as a top deck in the relatively late game, or even the very late game, obviously. And it just becomes this insane piece that lets you go get like a 6 or 8 drop. You go get a Carnage Tyrant or something. I think that a deck like Elves is probably more likely to use this, especially with cards like Marwyn in Standard right now. Pretty easy to make X equal 10. And then it kind of doesn't matter what creature you go get. I guess you just get like another Anthem effect, a Clan Caller or something. And then slap it on the battlefield, and suddenly all your elves get a billion until end of turn and swing in. You know, that's one way to do it in elves. I could see this being a win condition. In multiple green decks, again, toolbox strategies, ramp decks, elves decks, period. Note that it also lets you get guards from your graveyard, so it's kind of a reanimation piece. You know, we've seen a bunch of green cards that let you dump stuff into your graveyard, like Tamiyo's +1. So this could go pretty well with that if you're just trying to get something, like I said, out of your yard. So there's just so much versatility on this, so much raw power too. You know, it's a tutor and a finisher all in one, and that's traditionally extremely powerful. You'll note the relative lack of jokes today. That's because, like, these cards are nothing to joke about, y'all. I'm sorry, I know the comedy is a step down on this video, but whatever, these cards are nuts. Here's Sarkhan the Masterless right here. And honestly, I thought about talking about this card, like, second, you know? I'm not too sure about this thing, but we'll give it a shot. This is 5 mana, 3 and 2 red for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, each dragon you control deals 1 damage to that creature. That's neat. You can +1 Sarks. Until end of turn, each planeswalker you control becomes a 4/4 red dragon creature and gains flying. Or you can -3 Sarks to create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. I love the flavor. Like, when I first saw this, I was like, is this how they win against bullets or something? Like, he turns all of the planeswalkers into dragons, and they just get in, like, Arr! But, yeah, Ziggy, he's right here making faces at me. He'll come over eventually. But anyway, I do think this card has a lot of things going for it. I didn't mean to sound like I was trashing it or anything. As far as red 5 drops go, I'm not sure it's better than Skargan Hellkite or Siege Gang Commander in the decks that want it. But it is cool that you can just tick it up to turn it into a 4/4 dragon. Everything okay in there? I think so. But you can just tick it up to turn it into a 4/4 dragon and fly over, even if you have no other planeswalkers out, which is pretty sweet. Can't do it the first turn it's out, but subsequent turns, you just get tick-ups. And that seems cool, you know? Plus, the ability to just turn, like, all of your dudes, again, all of your planeswalkers at least, your whole Gatewatch team into dragons is pretty great. So if you have, like, even 1 or 2 other planeswalkers out, this becomes, like, seriously very threatening. But even by itself, it's good. You know, plus over time you can just get you can crank a couple of dragons out of it, you know, and that also seems fine. Having a dragon factory that will replenish itself, having a plus ability on this actually matters a lot. So I do kind of like this Sarkhan, but it's got to be better than other 5-drop options. I didn't even mention the Raise Boar, you know, that's probably, going into the next Standard, one of the more attractive 5-drop options in all of Standard, if you can actually get it to work. So I'm not absolutely sure that this takes precedence over some other stuff you could be playing, but it's a really attractive card. And again, like, over time, if all it ever does is tick up and swing in, it might not be so bad. You know, it's protected from sweepers and sorcery speed removal and stuff in that instance. So it does have some things going for it. There are some things I like about it, but I want to see it in action. But what's next here? Let's do Command the Dread Hoard. This is 6 mana, 4 and 2 blue for a sorcery. Choose any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers in graveyards. Command the Dread Hoard deals damage to you equal to the total converted mana cost of those cards. Put them onto the battlefield under your control. So I can't be sure about this either, you know, like, it's a pretty powerful reanimation spell if you just get 2 things. But if you get, you know, mana value out of it and no more, then it's dealing 6 to you. It's kind of a lot. You know, I'm not sure that a 6 mana card, you know, can deal 6 damage to you and you survive that in Standard, you know. I will say, in Commander, this seems like a pretty fun card, if nothing else, especially with all manner of cards that can soak up the damage for you, or, you know, you don't have to take the damage in some way or another. Bunch of ways to do it in Commander, but we've got ways to do it in Standard, too. There was a card that was leaked today that can help with this, but I'm not going to talk about leaks until they're officially previewed. I've talked about why on Twitter. I just don't want to take that opportunity away from another content creator. So I'll talk about that card, and I'll you know, harken back to this when the time comes. But we do have the Wanderer in Standard. That's been officially previewed. And that can soak up all the damage from this card and just let you get all the stuff back from graveyards, including Planeswalkers. The ability to get stuff back, Planeswalkers back from yards, is pretty insane, really. Especially if you just don't care about the damage this does to you in the first place. Seems great. So Waverly is going crazy, just racing around the house. But anyway, in any event, I do like this card, but I do think it's kind of more of a Commander piece, which doesn't, you know, downplay its value or anything. It seems fun in that format. But there might be better things to do, you know, in Commander if you're trying to finish in a mono black deck. But this is a pretty cheap way of doing it, and there's plenty of ways to enable it, put creatures in your graveyard. We've got Stitcher Supplier in Standard alone, plus the myriad other ways to do it, you know. So Ashiok, that can mill yourself, Jace can mill yourself, if you want to. If you want to make this your finisher, you know, some sort of Esper thing where Ashiok and Jace are milling you. We're building this deck on the spot. They're milling you, or like Tameo, it's milling you, you know. And then you play the Wanderer, and then you cast this, and you get all the stuff out of your graveyard, just win. It's possible, but it seems really, really janky. There was a lot of Planeswalker talk for that last card, so let's talk about Planeswalker. Here's Narset, partner of Veils, doing Narset stuff. 3 mana, 1 and 2 blue for a 5 loyalty walker. Each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. You can -2 Narset to look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put it into your hand, but the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Now, I kind of think I have a lot to say about this card. It's not great against everything. You know, like, I don't think it's going to be really good against aggro decks in Control, but it still does help you find, you know, your Kaya's Wrath, or, you know, some other, you know, Wrath that you're looking for by turn 4. Drop this on turn 3, and it's kind of a shimmer of possibility, which that doesn't sound very good, but if your opponent attacks into it, it'll at least also soak up some damage for you against aggro, and again, help you find the sweeper that you're looking for the next turn. That seems okay, you know. You basically get a Search for Azcanta activation, like, right away, and you might get 2 over the course of a game at the very least, so if you don't, like, proliferate or find other ways to put more counters on her. So that seems alright, you know. If nothing else, this is another card for the Esper Mirror that you put into the sideboard, but I think this is main deckable. Again, even though it's not incredible against aggro, digging to find that sweeper is going to be such a big thing that it might actually be worth the slot in the main deck. But in the Esper, you know, mirror match, this does plenty of things for you. You know, it keeps them off of drawing extra cards with Teferi, Chemister's Insight, the multiple ways that they'll be drawing extra cards over the course of a turn. This also keeps them from drawing a bunch of extra cards from Hydroid Krasis, which seems good. You know, Arc-like Phoenix decks, Drake's decks, they want to draw a bunch of cards, so, you know, it's good against them. I'm not sure how good it is against mono blue. Seems like the kind of card that's just going to get eaten alive by flyers the turn after you play it. But while it is on the battlefield, it turns off like Curious Obsession, Charter Course and stuff. So there's a lot of good things to say about this card. That said, I'm not sure it totally makes it. Like, the first thing that came to my mind was, you know, oh, and now we can build like Esper Walkers for real. You know, like we have Kaya, and this now in the 3-drop slot. You could play new Teferi in the 3-drop slot if you wanted to. We've got, you know, OG Dominaria Teferi in the 5-drop slot. That's not changing anytime soon. So we're doing like an Esper Super Friends thing here, and you can bring in Oath of Kaya. We're starting to cook, right? But in the end, I'm just not sure that an Esper Walkers deck that's kind of a tap-out control deck is going to be better than just a traditional instant speed based Esper control deck, kind of a draw go thing, where you eventually stick your Teferi and win with card advantage. I think you can just win that way and not have to play all these, sorcery speed cards. It'll put you behind on tempo a lot of the time. And, with all the 3-mana walkers you want to play in that deck, plus Oath of Kaya, you have to kind of have to cut absorb, and you really don't want to do that. So I'm just not sure if that deck is going to come together correctly, but if it does, this is going to be one of the 3-mana walkers of choice for that deck. Again, getting search activations like way before you normally could is going to be really, really nice. So I think the card has so much going for it, but I think it might just barely fall short of main deck ability. I hope not, but it does look like a fine card. And again, there are certain things, like against Mono Blue, it's not completely dead because it shuts off Curious Obsession. And even against aggro decks, it's not dead because it'll help you find sweepers and removal and stuff. So yeah, maybe main deckable, but we'll have to wait and see on this one. But up next, and we're getting close to the end here, is Narset's Reversal. This is 2 blue mana for an instant. Copy target instant or sorcery spell, then return it to its owner's hand. You may choose new targets for the copy. Okay, so it's kind of a fork, but better in some situations. If you're copying your own spells, it is pretty nifty to be able to send a burn spell back to your hand, or a counter spell back to your hand so you got another one backed up for the next time you need one. But I'm just talking about ways you can generate value with your own cards. And there are plenty of ways that, as the flavor text says, you can just use this against your opponent's spells, Yeah, they'll still get to keep their Lightning Strike or whatever, they can just recast it later. But in the meantime, you sort of remand their Lightning Strike and get to cast one of your own. So that just seems good in multiple situations, I like a good bit about this card, as evidenced by the fact that I put it so late into the video, right? I've got a good bit of confidence in this. And this, again, I'm not sure if it's main deck or sideboardable or what, or if it's too cute, too tricky to actually make it, but the tricks seem myriad. I've been overusing the word myriad lately, to be honest. It's one of my favorite words, apparently. But at the same time, this card just has obvious applications, and if I went through all of them, we'd be here all night. But just know that there are plenty of instants and sorceries and such that people are playing in their decks right now that you might just want to copy, especially your own. So the card looks insane to me. But we've reached the last card of the day, so I guess that means I think it's the best card of the day. I'm not really sure, but anyway, here's Gideon Blackblade right here. I finally get to talk about this card. 3 mana, 1 and 2 white for a legendary planeswalker with 4 loyalty. As long as it's your turn, Gideon is a 4/4 human soldier creature token with indestructible that's still a planeswalker, and you prevent all damage that will be dealt to Gideon during your turn. You know the deal by now, that's what Gideon does, but you can also +1 him. Up to 1 other target creature you control gains your choice of Vigilance, Lifelink, or Indestructible until end of turn, and you can -6 Gids to exile target non-land permanent. So is this how they beat Bolas, though? I'm still not sure, Gideon exiles him? I don't know. Or maybe it's like Command the Dreadhoard's flavor text where Liliana takes over the Dreadhorde. That's dope, by the way. Good story. But maybe it's like they do all the stuff, and also everyone is dragons. Who knows? But still. This is a good card, and that goes kind of without saying. It's a 3 mana, 4/4 indestructible during your turn that, again, is not susceptible to things like sorcery speed sweepers and sorcery speed removal in general. So, card is good for that reason. A 3 mana 4/4 indestructible that can't be dealt damage is good. It's a good card. So, yeah. It's fine. Aside from that, though, it has abilities, too. Now, I am a little bit wary about the +1 for multiple reasons. I want to be able to just give creatures indestructible and then swing in with them. Especially stuff like, Banalish Marshal, which is usually kind of soft when it swings in. You really don't want your opponent to Lightning Strike that. But this will help out with that. But if your opponent has the Lightning Strike, they're just going to strike it in response to the +1 anyway. So just keep that in mind. But I do think Indestructible is a very good ability to give a creature that's about to go into combat, as is Lifelink. That's great in certain situations, and even Vigilance. Because in a sneaky way, giving a creature Vigilance actually leaves that creature up to then protect Gideon on your opponent's turn. So all of those, that handful of abilities is all very nice. And the ultimate is not too far away from the starting loyalty. It's only -6. So Gideon goes really, really well with any proliferate strategies whatsoever. Like green-white proliferate with the Evolution Sage or whatever it's called, the landfall proliferate thing. Yeah, seems good. Seems fine. So, yeah. It's more about what he fits into, whether it's some kind of multicolored mid-range deck or if he's just going to be in mono white. But at that point, you got Benalis Marshall, History of Benalia, and Gideon in the 3-drop slot. And that's a deck that plays like 18 to 21 drops. It just doesn't have all the room at the 3-drop slot to fit Gideon. But that said, it might try and fit a 2-of Gideon, because once the card sticks onto the battlefield, it is a serious force to deal with. Can confirm. So just ridiculous planeswalker here. At least it doesn't have an ability that's like, you can't lose the game, like the last one did. But this one doesn't look any less broken than that one, you know. Even though the last Gideon the Trials didn't see as much standard play as I would have assumed that it would see. But this will probably do the work, you know. Like Gideon the Trials still did some work in standard, and this will probably do at least that much, if not more. But that's it for now, at least. Let me know how you felt about all these down there. You can tell how ambivalent or sort of, you know, conflicted I am on a lot of these cards. Talk me off of, you know, talk me into one side or the other here, because this is definitely one of those both sides day, which I usually hate to say. But, you know, I can definitely see pros and cons to a lot of these cards, which is always true. But I'm a little bit more conflicted about some of these cards today than I usually am. Gideon, that's his play. Don't worry about that. But pretty much everything else, I'm not sure about, you know. I think Narset almost certainly, the Narset fork spell probably shows up somewhere. Aside from that, I'm just not too sure that even some of these cards, well, the new Green Sun Zenith, that'll see play. The Green Finale, yes, ridiculous. But everything else, you know, either talk me out of or into them down there in the comments section. Let me know how you felt about them. Aside from that, like the video if you enjoyed the video, put me in more recommended feeds. Hit the subscribe button. That's probably the most important thing you can do if you haven't done it yet, because we're getting into the nitty-gritty now. Only a couple of days left in spoiler season. Then list, pre-release guide, deck text, boom, boom, boom. Lots of stuff to talk about. Make sure you subbed up for all that. Hit the bell. Then you can go over to TCG Player if you really feel like it. Check out the prices on the set. They're super low, the lowest on the internet at least. And you can pre-order singles from them, or just like boxes, you know, sealed product if you want to, all below MSRP, if that even exists as a concept anymore. Aside from that, if you really want to help me out, you can go over to the Patreon, link in the description. Just $1 a month is all I ask. But if you pay that buck just every 30 days, $1. So order French fries or whatever, you know, it's a soda. $1 every 30 days. And you can vote on what decks you want to see all season long. So get in there. New patrons, thanks for signing up. You guys are awesome. Seriously, you are all amazing. But if you want to join the team, go over there, link in the description for that. Aside from that, pretty sure I'm done for this one. So just let me know how you felt about them, and I'll catch you cats later. I'm Dev from the Place. Thanks for watching, my wizards. Spread love and be kind. Ziggy, you never showed up. You're just still right there. You're just kind of asleep. You're just kind of asleep. Like, can I show you? Can I show you this guy right here? Oh, you're gonna wake up. You're gonna wake up right when I go to show the people. God, you are big. Look at this Leviathan. Look at this island fish Gisconius. You are. You big kitty wants kisses. He's a sweet bub. He's a sweet bub. I just think that he likes listening to Papa talk, because he gradually goes to sleep on the table during the videos. You're a good boy.